Michael Mילשטיין, who's the head of the Palestinian Studies Forum at Moshe Dayan Center for Middle Eastern and African Studies, Tel Aviv University. Always good to have you with us. Thanks for joining here. First of all, the Palestinian Authority, okay, understandable. I mean, they're staunchly against these peace accords, that they're not going to show up. But Jordan, I mean, this feels like a diplomatic crisis, really, for Israel in particular. That, is Jordan the de facto representative right now of Palestinian interests?
Well, it's a very good question, David. Regarding Jordan, we're talking about an ongoing tension. I think that we can even define it as an ongoing crisis since the elections, the results of the elections in Israel. I think that Jordan actually consider the results of the elections as a challenge, maybe even a threat. And that's why no Jordanian representative came to Abu Dhabi to the summit. And I think if I can be, for example, the advisor of Prime Minister Netanyahu, I think that it's very important to preserve the stability of the relations between Israel and Jordan, and to avoid any step, any move that will undermine them, because Jordan has really a strategic importance for Israel. And I think that it is really, it's not good at all that the two states will be in such a tense relations. And I think that the same issue is also right about Egypt, and of course about the Gulf states.
I know there's a lot, as you mentioned, there's a hugely strategic relationship between Israel and Jordan. We'd like to believe there's still a lot of that robust relationship below the radar, taking place here. We know there's a lot of security coordination, but touching on the Palestinians with your specialty, of course, look, this new government in Israel, they're already clamping down, taking some hostile action against the Palestinian Authority. Taxes, cutting back the tax deliveries to them, visas to top officials being revoked or at least refused at this point. Where does the situation seem to be headed? What's your perspective on where we're going between Israel and the Palestinian Authority?
Well, actually, David, unfortunately, I must admit, I think that we and the Palestinians, the Palestinian Authority, are in a collision course. I think that right now there is such a deep fear or such a deep even hostility from the Palestinian side, the Palestinian Authority, toward the new government. So I see almost no way from growing tension, even growing clashes between the two sides. I think that after this week, when the Minister of Treasury, Smotrich, announced that if the Palestinian Authority will support or continue to support terror in its own territory, he sees no reason why this entity should exist. I think that all these signals can actually show us that the two sides are in a very tense situation. I'm really afraid that this tense situation will lead us, Israel and the Palestinians, to a very problematic situation regarding the coordination, the military and the civil coordination between the two sides. And from this point, if the coordination will be undermined, I'm really afraid that the whole situation in the West Bank, which was relatively calm during the last decade, can be really a nightmare for both sides.
The pointing question on my mind here, of course, I mean, given those sentiments from the finance minister and everything else you've discussed here, I mean, the PA largely, they're propped up by Israel, by the United States. Could we see their complete collapse in the near term this year?
I think that it won't be a collapse, David. It will be a dying process. The Palestinian Authority really depends on in the financial level on Israel. And if Israel will limit or start to cut the payment, the tax payment to the Palestinian Authority, the Palestinian Authority cannot function. And if it cannot function, it means that it cannot pay salaries to its workers. And it means that there will be a lot of vacuums, mainly civil vacuums in this territory, the West Bank. And I'm really afraid that the result of this situation will be that Israel will be the player that will actually have to get into this vacuum and will actually have to implement the responsibilities of this vacuum, mainly in the civil and the financial level. And I really hope that in the government, in our government, in the Israeli government, there are a lot of people who are thinking about this future, about these scenarios, about the meaning of ongoing or even growing tension between us and the Palestinians.
I've been shaking my head in dismay here a lot in this conversation. It's a dismal prospect here, the idea of those types of vacuums emerging in this arena that we're talking about here. Nothing good will fill those. A lot of burden on Israel. Dr. Michael Mילשטיין, thanks for being with us as always.
Thank you, David.